Hi, my name is not Toby Alexander, but that is the name I'm going to use for these videos and for this series that I'm going to be doing, which is opening up about my experiences of being an autistic adult. So, by way of introductions, Toby Alexander is my pseudonym, it's my writing name. So, outside of my normal life, I wear the mask of Toby Alexander, which is an author, screenwriter, clothes designer, and just generally someone with a really messy head sometimes. I'm 39 now, for another few months, and then I'll be older than that. My autism journey really began during my school years. I knew that. Being a child of the 80s, it was very much a let's not talk about it, you are slightly different, but it's not causing you any academic issues at that point. When I progressed through the British mainstream schools, there was nothing untowards. My academic development was absolutely fine, and it wasn't until I hit my options as my A-levels that I decided to do psychology, simply because I wanted to get a bit more of an insight about the way my head works. And then I ended up doing a degree in psychology. So I think it was from 2002 to 2005, I studied a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. And part of my UCAS application and conversation interview part was why I wanted to do it. And my only answer was because I want to understand why I am the way I am. So even then, it was always there. Obviously did the AQ50 as part of the lessons that you do, scored highly, but never did anything with it. And then I progressed straight out of university into my career with my real name and my real life. And this is where I kind of throw in the caveat that everything I say on here is from a personal point of view. It doesn't represent my job. It doesn't represent the opinions of the organisation that I work for or anything like that. This is all me. Popular or unpopular, I think that I'm in quite a unique position that I can kind of share my experiences and hopefully assist people in feeling confident to speak about the way they are and the way they feel and the way they develop, but also to provide some insight from the outside in to help break down those barriers. Because what you'll pick up from the series is the fact that I personally think, and again it's my personal opinion, so feel free to disagree if you like, but I feel that we are currently in the position that mental health awareness was 10 years ago. So I feel that whilst there's a lot of acknowledgement, there's a lot of steps in the right direction, we're still in a place where we don't fully understand it, and there's still those antiquated attitudes that appear, and sometimes the silence is preferred, if that makes sense. So when it comes to my diagnosis, that really didn't start until I was in my mid-30s. So I have 3 children. My youngest son at the time, he was starting to show some signs that we could relate to and identify as autism. We also, as a family, we carry a very rare genetic deletion, which in itself sparked this whole adventure off, I suppose. So, long story short, my oldest son was hospitalised when he was young with HSP. Don't ask me to pronounce it. I'll let you Google it. But it's basically as a result of that, we had a load of tests done on him because he had some residual pain around his legs. And being the feisty dad that I am, and feisty parents that we are, we wanted to understand it so that he could understand. So he kept having some pains, and we got a lot of tests done on the NHS, and one of those was a genetics test. And part of that genetics test identified that on chromosome 12, exact address is 12p13.33, which is the CACNA1C gene. On one strand, it was missing. So we obviously then got into the realms of the familial test to see whether it was inherited or if he'd created that genetic anomaly himself. Lo and behold, it was me that passed it down to him, and along the way we've now had all 3 of the children tested, and they all carry this one-strand deletion. And it was from that I managed to find research that was being done on mice at the time, I think it was. So I contacted the university that was doing it in Cardiff and spoke to the amazing team there, and they were just starting to do some work with Imagine ID into looking into genetic anomalies and development. So me and my oldest, at that point, he was the only one with the deletion identified along with me. So we went down to Cardiff and took part in the research that they were doing. And as a result of that, the identification, or I scored significantly on the autism test as part of that process. From there, that's where it gets interesting, because it wasn't my oldest son that was showing signs of ASD as he was growing up, it was my youngest. So trying to get him the support that he needed through primary school was quite a difficult journey. I'll be totally honest, we didn't find it the easiest process. There was lots of battles back and forth. And at one point I was told, because there's no family link and there's no issues with that, he seems to be all right at school because he was grey, he was hiding, masking at school, and we were starting to see that at an early age. So I then said, right, if we need the family link, I've got my results here, so I will put myself forward. And that's where we hit kind of the process, because my youngest son is now diagnosed, my daughter is about to go through her diagnosis process. My oldest son scores the same as me but doesn't want to explore it, and I totally respect that. Whereas me, I'm now in the system. So you kind of go through this validation fear for me. So I got the research label, and at the top of the research label, because I take things literally, it said for research purposes only, not for diagnosis. So whilst it validated me, I wasn't able to kind of feel confident in saying that, yes, I am autistic at that point. Now that brings me on to the point that I'm out and proud. I am fully aware and cognizant of the fact that this makes me who I am. Without it, there is no way that I would have written the books that I've written, the screenplays that I've done, all these crazy ideas that pour from my head. That is my autism. But I've learned to harness it. Don't get me wrong, and what I'm going to do in this series is kind of explain to you the journey I've taken, the good stuff, but also the mistakes and the bad things, because I think it's important that people see, whilst I present this outward appearance of confidence and everything else, there is a lot more deeper down that really plays, and I think that's the fine stuff that we don't necessarily share with very many people, or I don't. And I am only speaking from my personal experience. So I don't tend to share that. So the fact that people miss the potential cues, that's my fault, but I need to feel that I can now share that with people. So through the diagnosis, I'm still going through the NHS system, but for me, it's not about me, it's about paving a future for my children and for making it more acceptable. No, that's probably not the right word, more accepted and understood. So my drive is to kind of break down some of those barriers that are there. The process in itself is painful. There's nothing easy about it. I remember doing the Cardiff tests, and they were brilliant. The team were amazing, but I have to say I've never felt so raw afterwards, because what I decided to do, because we went through the process, because we had agreed to go through it all, it was very much about there was going to be no masking from me. And I remember it vividly to this day, that it originally started with me and my oldest son in the room together, and the questions began as they went through the psychometric side of things, and it was like, if you want the answers, he needs to not be here, because there's very much, I still had the mask of dad on at that point, so it was very much around protecting him from seeing a different version of me. And there were things when it comes to trauma, and that's another area I'll explore, through trauma and life experience. I didn't want him to know. At that point, he was too young for that. So it's kind of going to be a warts and all journey through my life, just in the glimmer of hope that somebody on the spectrum resonates with this and kind of feels that they're not alone, but more importantly, that people watch this and kind of identify where they are missing cues and can help people. It's not a perfect world. It's probably never going to be a perfect world, but we are at a turning point where neurodiversity is becoming more, I wouldn't say prevalent, that's the wrong word, it's becoming more acknowledged, and people are feeling more comfortable about saying who they are and what makes them who they are. I'm one of those, and it's been a battle. It has been a hard journey, and it's the journey I'm still on. But what I'm hoping to do with these videos is kind of give that, hopefully more succinct, because I'm at 10 minutes, a more succinct breakdown, I suppose, of where I am and what's got me to this point. So it's kind of a thank you for bearing with me for 10 minutes. But this is just one person's experience, one person's journey. with a little bit of insight as to how it's affected me over the years, and the key bits that I think may be common, but also are trigger points and kind of useful things to know. So some of the things that we're going to cover, I'm going to talk about coping mechanisms. I have many of them. Some are now socially acceptable. I'm going to talk about masking. It's a big thing that I've done over the years. I have masked for as long as I can possibly remember, and I've become quite adept at it. I'm going to talk about trauma response with autism. The job that I do, again, this isn't about the job that I do, but the job that I do has disposed me to a lot of traumatic incidents over the years. So it's my trauma response and how I've dealt with that in both positive and negative ways. I'm going to look at sexual orientation and considerations around, again, autism, but neurodiversity in general. I am no expert. Yes, I did a psych degree, 20 years ago now. God, that makes me feeling older. But it's not about that. All this is my experiences, and hopefully people will get something from it. That's really all I'm here for. Hopefully I don't bore you to death, and you have made it to the 11-minute mark, which is quite commendable. So please share your thoughts, share your feelings. This is just my journey, and I'm sure I'll hark back to it as we go along. But we are in this together. The future is still around the corner, and I'm hoping that this sort of thing won't be necessary or needed in 10 years' time. We can all sit there and just be happy and confident and comfortable in who we are. But whilst we're at this turning point, I think that because I'm able to almost comfortably share my experiences and what's got me to this point, I think it's important that I do that, because for years I've felt alone in the world that I've created. Don't get me wrong, I'm married with a family, but I felt alone in the fact that the journey that goes on in my head was mine and mine alone, and nobody else understood it. But the more I do my talks, the more I engage with the neurodivergent community, the more I come across people in similar positions, I kind of realize that it's not as lonely as I think. It's probably me making it that lonely, but who knows? You might all hate the video, and for that I do apologize and expect you not to ever tune in again. You know what? If one person watches this and gets something out of it, then I've achieved what I want to achieve. It's nothing more than that. So yeah, it's going to be a series of videos. I will go through lots of different things from my point of view, and hopefully just open up that conversation. So if anyone's got any comments, feel free to drop them below, or you can email me. If I can find a way to do this, I'll make it look all clever, but you can email me at this address here, toby@toby-alexander.com. That's my kind of like author email, but that's the one I keep specifically for these sorts of things. So drop me an email, drop me a comment, anything like that. I just need to know that I'm not talking to just the light ring and my bedroom window, so my neighbours probably think I'm weird. But anyway, you'll have to get used to the tangents that I go off. I do have a very 10 bullet point list just to keep me on track that I just keep looking at to the side, and I think I've hit all of them. If not, I'll probably pick them up later. But thanks for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.